Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry, where today we are looking at a low tier ship, because this is at tier 3, the premium cruiser Katori. Why are we looking at the Katori? Because it is given away as a login reward if you manage to collect everything at the end of the month, which means I figured, given that we just started, you want to know if you should be at least logging in once a day to get your hands on this tier 3 premium cruiser. The Katori actually existed. This was a purpose-designed training ship. So Japan was using mostly armored cruisers before for officer training, but figured they wanted a ship that was actually purpose-designed for that. And in the 1930s, came up with this cruiser. Now, this wasn't meant to be a fighting ship, and as such, she was basically built around a commercial vessel and not as an actual warship. She had some guns, she had some anti-aircraft guns, she had some torpedo launchers, and was a reasonably stable platform for new sailors and officers to train and figure things out. She also had a very weird engine setup, just to include all types of engines that they could get their hands on and cram into a ship at the same time. So that was her initial role. Now, of course, the war did not go in Japan's favor, and at the attack on Truk by an American task force, the Katori was actually present. And after having been damaged by carrier airstrikes, the Americans decided to use her for target practice for the USS Iowa, which means Iowa was unleashing HE shells at the poor cruiser, and eventually sunk her after turning her into more or less Swiss cheese. So that was the end of that training ship and the end of the Katori, but we have the ship here at tier 3. Now, before we get into the review, I'm going to have to say something about tier 3. And even if you're playing on a let's say busy time on the server, usually at tier 3 you're going to be playing 2v2s, 3v3s, things of that kind. Most of the time you'll be facing more bots than actual players. And the other fact that we have to mention at tier 3 is that you're facing two types of players. Either you're facing players who have no idea what they're doing because they just started yet, or you'll be facing seal clubbers. So I figured I'll dip my toes in the latter category because I actually have the Katori on my personal account. And given that it's a training ship, I'll put Yamamoto on it so he can get some training in. Let's go through what the ship is capable of. Now, you're at tier 3s, usually not an awful lot. You get the choice between speed and acceleration or a faster torpedo tube reload. Usually I would have gone for speed and acceleration, but we'll talk about this in a second. So I'm actually selecting the torpedo reload and torpedo traverse speed here. You can, because this is a premium ship, actually purchase the historical camo, which isn't extremely expensive. It gives you extended range on both the main battery and the torpedoes, and makes the ship a bit harder to spot and a bit more maneuverable. So that is all not a terrible choice. The battle honors, if you want to just get the free ship, you get one copper out of it. So it's not an awful lot, but it's one free copper if you want it. It's not difficult to get. Now, this being tier 3, the equipment that we can stick on the ship is relatively limited. I would recommend taking the main battery mod 1 because the main battery is very slow in turning around. You don't really have a choice in the second slot. May as well get the steering gear mod. And we're taking the propulsion in slot 3 simply because there's no better option. Terry, where are the stats of the ship? Yeah, I'll show you. I did it this way around for a purpose. So your armor and your hit points are very low. I mean, this is a tier 3 ship, and this was not a warship. This was not an actual cruiser. This was more of a commercial vessel with some guns and torpedoes on it. And even with these modifications in, your top speed is 20 knots, which is a little faster than what she did in reality, because in reality she was only capable of 18. due to the relatively chunky hull and the weird engine layout, because this ship was never meant to actually go anywhere. It's a training ship. She is reasonably maneuverable, and you get the same guns as you get on the Ubery, although not as many. You only get 2 twins of the 140mm gun. These are Japanese guns, so the high explosive is very good, the armor piercing is pretty terrible, and they don't rotate very quickly. You do get, however, 2 torpedo launches, two twin torpedo launches with a 7.5 kilometer range, which is pretty decent, and 3000 damage torpedo doesn't sound an awful lot, but if you're in tier 3, nobody has many hit points. So mainly this is a torpedo ship. The AA is absent, which is fine, and the surface detection with 6.3 kilometers is pretty good as well. You almost got destroyer level surface detection. Does this ship train you for playing Japanese cruisers? Not really, because you're in tier 3. Most of the maps mean that you'll be spotted at any point anyway, and the prevalence of bots means that you're mostly going to be, in some form of all-out brawl. So it's not really it's designed to be a long-range ship, because you actually, very unusually for this low tier, get 2 ship skills. You get a precise aim, and you get a torpedo reload booster, which means that you can, if you manage to turn a ship around, fire 6 torpedoes all in all. And get the precise aim on, because the dispersion on these guns is frankly terrifying. But it's tier 3. And you're not going to be playing anything at range anytime soon. You're just going to be in the thick of it. So, yes, I have actually brought Yamamoto along because, it's Yamamoto. And I'm trying to get him to APCS, so I'm putting him on every premium that I can get my hands on. And yes, I don't have the actual historical camo. I was going to stick this one on because it gives a nice XP bonus, and we give it a significantly German outlook at this point. And we'll be playing one battle because it's tier 3, and you probably don't want to watch me sink bots for the next 20 minutes. And yes, I've been playing this during a busy time on the North American server. We are facing a Chester and a V25 on icebergs, which is a sort of starter map. The rest is all bots, so we're not going to be worrying about them too much. Like I said, you're not going to be facing full teams on the enemy team. If you're fighting 1 or 2 players, that's usually what you can expect, and usually they're not super experienced with these sort of things, so unless they're actual seal clubbers and doing stuff. So the other problem, like I mentioned, yes, you have a good concealment, but you're never going to be playing at long range, which means you may as well get used to the fact that everyone brawls. So let's see if we can find the players, and then we can deal with the bots afterwards. There we have the enemy Chester. Hello, Mr. Chester. So let's start opening up on that thing. The armor piercing is not great. It's generally better to just stay with the high explosive. It's Japanese light cruiser caliber. High explosive is pretty decent. And Chester does not have any torpedoes. He is turning flat towards the island, which means that he is going to die right now, because I'm going to use my torpedo reload and drop the torpedoes ahead, and that is a dead Chester. There's the V25. Now, one thing, if you're fighting destroyers, you'd be going like, yeah, I'm in a light cruiser. Destroyers should be afraid of me. Well, not so much, because your guns are not good, and you are extremely slow. So that V25 is now targeting me, and what I don't think he realizes is that I have torpedoes on the other side. Now, let's get the torpedoes out, and he is going to try and torpedo me with his forward torpedoes, which means he is now very dead, and that torpedo has been evaded. And that's, well, pretty much the end of the battle. I know it's been a bit anticlimactic, but that's tier 3 gameplay for you, really. So now it's just the bots left. And here's a bit of a problem, because while they are all Tokyo drifting around the countryside here, I am now finding myself next to 3 battleships. And they are all faster than me. So the best I can do is drop some torpedoes on them, and because bots are proximity targeting, and I have no way of actually getting away from them, they are going to kill me. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it, because the best I can do is about 20 knots if somebody gets out and pushes. So yeah, while you're watching the bots obliterate me, and I'm getting a couple more torpedoes out. There we go. Let's see how the rest of the battle plays out, because we are still, I mean, just because I got killed is no reason not to ignore the rest of the battle. So the two Russian or Soviet battleships there are still Tokyo drifting around the countryside, and we've got the South Carolina on our team here, and a Bellerophon, a British battleship, which is still sailing there. And yes, look at the synchronized dancing of the, I have no idea how to pronounce that. Knyaz Sovorov, something like that. I'll have to look that up actually, and I'll butcher that. But these two should be able to deal with these relatively low health battleships, and especially that the Bellerophon has now also enabled the Tokyo drift, has pulled on the handbrake and is just sliding around the corner. There goes the first one, and that should be enough firepower to deal with the second one after the damage I've done with the torpedoes. We are, however, still behind on points. We're still 10 points behind with 2 minutes left on the battle. So given that the South Carolina isn't significantly faster than I am, actually, in fact, I think the South Carolina is actually slower than I am. I don't think there are many things that are... I would argue that the icebergs in this map are probably faster than the South Carolina. So we are now 70 points ahead, because we're ahead a kill. That said, there's still that Bellerophon out there fighting the Indefatigable. And they're on relatively even hit points. So there is still a cruiser out there, so it's still entirely possible that the Indefatigable goes down, and things might be looking a little different again. But yeah, they have a Gelderland there, and the Bellerophon is trying to drift around and the Indefatigable now finds itself in the unenviable position of being crossfired. However, the Gelderland is not coming particularly close, which is probably for the better. The rest of my team is sitting down in the south at the iceberg and waiting to see how that all plays out. And the Indefatigable is going for the cap. Will you look at that? The bot's going for the cap just to make sure. I mean, it's a minute 26 in, so I think it's not enough. It's not going to be enough time to win by capping. We are ahead on points, however, so I think he's changed his mind. Yeah, bot's changed his mind. He is no longer capping. Realized that he doesn't have the time, and he's just trying to secure the win here by taking out the Bellerophon, which hasn't really managed to drift correctly to avoid the incoming fire. The Gelderland has realized what's going on there and is coming up to help. It's too little too late. Being chased by the friendly battleship in the south. Yes, the other Bellerophon there. South Carolina is guarding the friendly cap, and the Gelderland is now dodging incoming fire. The enemy Bellerophon once again pulls the handbrake, drifts around the iceberg, trying to maybe get lucky with some citadels on the Indefatigable with 33 seconds left, but this is coming down to the wire. Secondaries hammering each other here. Who gets the first salvo off? Who gets the reload fastest? Indefatigable or Bellerophon? Indefatigable shoots and takes down the Bellerophon. That just leaves the Gelderland, and that thing that does not stand a chance. Well done, Indefatigable. And the bots win the battle. Sorry, I did try to make that a little more interesting than it would have otherwise been, because, you know, watching bots fight each other is usually like watching paint dry. So to answer your question, should you make an effort to get the Katori? If you are a new player and you just want to grab a premium ship and you find that it's an awesome thing to have, sure, just go for it. I wouldn't really invest in the ship per se, but it can be a fun ship to play in lower tiers, and, you know, just get your hands on things. As you get up through the ranks, you're probably not going to be touching that ship again. I've actually purchased that ship at some point because she was on sale for a little bit of gold way years back when that thing came out, and I figured, you know, why not? But once you start reaching tier 6, 7, 8 and you play them more regularly, you're not going to play tier 3, because tier 3 really is not that exciting most of the time due to the lack of players in the game. And you can have a couple of good rounds in it. It's not a bad ship, but it's not going to give you the excitement anymore down the road. That said, it's a free one. So you may as well pick it up if you can be bothered to start the game once every day, just to get the free tier 3 premium. You know, nothing wrong with free ships, but it's a decent ship. Be aware that it's extremely slow, and once you get yourself into trouble, you have no way of getting out of it. But other than that, yeah, it's not a huge loss if you miss it. Not like next month, which I believe is going to get us Jesse Oldendorf, and that means I will definitely be logging in every day next month if I didn't misremember that. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.